John Chia is Group Managing Director, CEO of Hong Leong Bank, a mid-sized financial institution in Malaysia and a professional career banker all her life. Now, let's zero in on the institution that you've built at Hong Leong Bank. You've built an institution that's growing steadily, not fast, but steadily, and an institution that has erred on the side of ROE growth rather than on market share, for example, and kept very focused on specific product sets. Do you wish that you were able to grow faster than you are today?
We have grown on a compounded basis for the last 5 years at 16% on a profitability basis. If you looked at the asset size, we have also doubled it in the last 5 years. When you looked at it from a standpoint of ROE, I think yes, we're one of the highest ROEs in the country. Even though we are probably, in terms of size, number 6, in terms of tier 1, core capital ratio, we are the best in the industry. Now, if you look at profitability from a risk-adjusted basis, Fitch says that we are the top, ahead of even the bigger banks in the country. In itself, one would appear to say that, wow, they're obviously very quality conscious. Yes, but I don't think we are blindly just being quality without realizing the fact that as a major, as a very important banking quality middle-size, I would say mid-size bank, we would not have dreams to scale. We have done very well in our consumer business. It has doubled our cards, our growth in mortgages, and in the overall consumer segment. In the credit cards, we are among the top 3. In unit trust, we're among the top 3. Mortgages, we have among the top 5. That growth has come across that we have been very much consumer-oriented. The business banking side, we could do better, but our global market sides have done well. We are always on the lookout for opportunities. I think in Malaysia, the organic growth is very compelling, but today we have reached the stage that I think we have to go regional. The inorganic growth, like the one that we see on the table, Aeon Bank is still work in progress, but we could have grown a lot more, if you can say, whether it's through organic or inorganic, but we believe in sensible valuations. We believe in value creation, especially when in an organic market.
What is it like working for an entrepreneur as the chairman of the Hong Leong Group is?
Actually, it is interesting. You know, I was just asking myself the other day. I've actually worked for 2 very strong entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Both amazing men, and I'm very fortunate and actually honored to have the ability to be on with them to interact on a one-to-one basis.
So what have you learned from them?
It's
how
amazing.
Are they different from one from the other?
You see, like Tan Sri Rashid is obviously a very forward-looking man who has, I would believe, is one of those guys that have already foreseen that good talent was going to make the difference. If you look around today, the people that he had brought in the RHB group before, each and every one of us have actually continued to sustain and carry his flag in various organizations as the honchos. In the case of Tan Sri Kwek, he's amazing in the sense that the wisdom of his strategic thinking and the forward thinking has made somebody like us who probably could see certain things up to, say, 3 steps ahead, and there's somebody else who can see even 10 steps ahead. And when you have the ability to be in that environment, you grow yourself and you become wiser, and your breadth and depth will grow.
If you take the offer that's on the table for Aeon Bank at the moment from Hong Leong Bank. And this is almost like a war of the titans, as it were, the Malaysian conglomerate owners. You would even describe it as a very stingy offer, basically, in the sense that a very reticent offer, which on the side of the seller, they would not be able to accept it, not just because of shareholder valuation, but also for face value, in the sense that they would imagine that their franchise is a little bit more valuable than it is. How would you describe his personality in terms of his deal-making capabilities and the kind of deals that he puts on the table for his counterparties, for his competitors? He's a very ruthless negotiator. Would you not say that?
I would say that because it's the belief in the group's value creation and record that makes one convicted in believing your own intrinsic value built over the years. And by staying steadfast and focus on the core competence and building the best out of your core competence, that's what I believe is the guiding principle. And if there's one thing I have learned, is that when you do something, pick a few core competence and do the best, and the evaluation process will take care of itself.
And you believe that the offer on the table for Aeon Bank is a fair offer, and it's something that you can build a franchise with if it became part of the Hong Leong Group?
I think the offer will put a very compelling proposition for a bigger organization, which will provide opportunities for employees, shareholders, as well as our customers.
Give us a sense of your growth back into a regional role. You've now acquired a stake in a bank in Chengdu and another in Vietnam, and that sort of makes you a regional banker all over again, like your days during Bank of America. Actually,
I'm very excited to talk about Bank of Chengdu. And if there's one I wouldn't say we are satisfied yet, but there's one storyline that's appeared where the trajectory is going on its due course, is Bank of Chengdu. We were lucky to win over the likes of DBS when we bidded for it. And then when we got it, we told ourselves we have to make it work. The Chinese look at us from a standpoint of what we can bring to the table to bring them to the best practice for them to be able to scale and go into new markets and new segments and new products. So what we did was to put in a team of people at the board as well as at the key decision making, which includes risk and product development as well as finance, and together with a technical fund to ensure that enough resources and training programs are given to their people over a 3 years period. We have trained over 1,200 of their people. We have got the risk officer, the finance officer, and even data analytics, IT, treasury people, consumer people working alongside with the people. And once we get the buy-in and they know we are genuine in terms of wanting to build value, they really execute well. I mean, I have to tell you, once they buy in, no one can come close to them when it comes to execution. We have seen that they've moved the balance sheet to twice the size. They have improved their NPL positioning to below 1%. The coverage ratios of provisions over 300%. Their assets have reached over 100 billion renminbi. They are contributing to about 12% of my profits now. And that is only when they're just scratching the surface on consumer and treasury. Can you imagine when they scale up more, when the market today, after the recent preemptive measures, starts understanding that lending in China has to be more about diversity and less concentration on corporate segments? I think there's so much potential.
So where is this China story going to take you and your bank going forward? Do you see yourself spending more time in China? Do you see it as acquisition with a goal to sell the acquisition eventually?
We always internally tell ourselves if we can replicate this the way we see in China with any of our acquisitions, that would be a great story, especially in the region. But today, Bank of Chengdu is in the central Western China, and the law only allows us to have 20%. Of course, looking at the success and future potential, we are always looking to see how we can increase our shareholding when the market opens. Precisely because of what we have done quite well, what has happened is that the government in China has given 4 new licenses for consumer finance in the whole of China. They did it, one in the central southern region, 2 in Shanghai northeast region, and 1 in the eastern region south. And we were given the opportunity to start that consumer finance with Bank of Chengdu.
So we have first.
Among one of the 4. So we have, together with Bank of Chengdu, have a joint venture company on a consumer finance company that just started a year ago.
What are the risks of doing business in China and some of these consumer finance subsidiaries that you're allowed to set up? The major banks in China have set up trust companies, and sometimes it provides the opportunity to do things off balance sheet that you wouldn't do on the banking front. Is there a concern?
No, I think, Emmanuel, you'll be very surprised. I think China is very serious to revamp and reform the banking industry. What I see from the things that they are pushing through, the reforms into the Bank of Chengdu that we see that happening throughout China. And because I think CBRC is very serious on that. I don't see that people will do off-balance sheet items like before. Those days, I think, are over. And they have made it very clear. Capital considerations, they give a time for them to clear that off. I think that won't happen anymore. I think it was a thing of the past. When you look at what they are looking at in terms of the risk management, using technology and looking at the asset liability management, they're encouraging the banks to step up their expertise and looking at them to diversify their earning streams. These are very good moves, and that's where I think sustainable banking will have to rely on, nothing else.